The importance of Dalwood House to the history of the Hunter Valley, and indeed the whole colony of New South Wales, was underlined by the Governor's attendance at the handing over ceremony. In his welcoming address, the chairman of Wyndham Estate Wineries, Mr. Stan Hamley, said Dalwood was the original home of the Hunter wine industry. Some of the vines planted here grew for 130 years. Sir James Rowland is a direct descendant of the man who built Dalwood, George Wyndham. And
when John Batman made his historic choice of the place
to hand over to the National Trust, the Governor signed an old-style parchment document. The restoration of Dalwood has already begun, and Sir James and the other guests inspected the progress. The work is being conducted by the Dalwood Restoration Association under the sponsorship of the National Trust. The Trust's appeal must raise at least $500,000 to complete the work. $44,000 has already been provided by the federal government to employ 6 people to work on the restoration. Mr. Ian Hudson of the Dalwood Restoration Association says the move to save the homestead has come not a moment too soon.
It was last leg, and if we hadn't moved very hard last year, the whole property would have disintegrated, and a piece of history would have been lost to New South Wales and Australia.
What is its historical value?
It is of very important architectural significance in that it's the earliest known example of Greek Revival architecture in Australia.
As this first half actually showed, the game was an even affair, till just before half-time, when Canberra's only real chance failed to find a net, and it was a 0-0 scoreline when the teams turned round, with Rosebud midfielder John Macquarie the best of the bunch. The second half belonged to the locals, and when classy skipper Joe Sinkowski grabbed his first of 2 goals some 15 minutes after Lemons, it became a procession of chances for the National Cup holders, with Sinkowski wrapping it up from a direct free kick late in the game. All Canberra players built a wall, but Joey simply kicked them, emphasising his class once more. Coach Willie Gallagher was pleased with newcomers Dale Robertson and Brett Fawkes, and with the news that Derek Todd will return for the NSL season. This aerial shot shows newcomer Mark Drayton looking over the course, but it was Sydney's Bruce Neville and Jeff Carrington that led the way in the open men's, with local skier Bruce Coburn hot on their heels. His wife Nikki Coburn heads the list in the women's after wins in tricks and slalom, while Maitland Scott Cromarty and Sydney's Dion Ellison are fighting it out in the boys section. Shortland girl Judy Shasser is locked in battle with Natalie Bellis Queensland for the overall girls title, with Judy taking the slalom and Natalie the trick. Only the jumps are to be decided. Winds gusting up to 25 knots faced the skiers in the annual Pulbur Island Classic, but it was just what the doctor ordered for Australian team members who faced similar rough conditions in Spain for the 85 world title. The judge, one of those team members with Rory Brown and Murray Hackett, was the eventual winner after leading the field away after a pretty late start. Next home was Moonshine, with Crackers in 3rd position overall.
The land at Cockle Creek is controlled by the Lands Department. and the council hopes that if the owners of the restaurant do apply for permissive occupancy, the good partners will agree. The matter became the centre of a controversy over the past few months, when it led to its mooring at Belmont South to benefit the public wharf at Belmont. The residents of the area objected, so the council and the massive owners reached an agreement that it should berth at the Strait Point public wharf until it could find a permanent site. It's proposed that the floating restaurant should pick up its patrons from the public wharves and be permanently moored at Coffle Creek. The manageress of the restaurant, Ms. Katie Mark, says she's happy about the proposal and believes it could be the answer to the problem.
This is because, all things being equal, he'll have no excuse for moving. Unlike last October, when he lost his Australian junior featherweight crown to Sydney's Mark Cribb. Peavy went into that contest badly drained of energy after trying desperately to make the correct weight. 20-year-old Peavy has now moved up 2 divisions. His opponent, 29-year-old Henry, is a seasoned campaigner, with 103 professional fights under his belt, 12 of those for a title, which has still eluded him. But Peavy is quietly confident of winning the New South Wales junior lightweight title. His mental attitude is directly linked to his move up in the division.
I'm eating a lot more than what I used to be. I don't have to go on diets weeks before my fight. I can have steaks the day of my fight. I don't have to go in saunas hours before my fight, so that's the best part, I think.
And the overall effect seems to be a renewed confidence. You're not going to have to race off to the sauna before the weigh-in this time.
No, I've got a lot more confidence now than what I had before, even with the last fight. I wasn't that sure.
But certainly now you've got confidence, but you must obviously have in the back of your mind that this is almost a do-or-die effort for Craig Peavy if he wants to make the big time.
Yeah, I think I've got to win this one. If I don't win this one, I'll think about retiring, I think.
By the Department of Trade, however, resulted in one being made and exported to New Zealand and the latest order to Saudi Arabia. One press takes between 6 to 8 months to build at a cost of $180,000. But according to assistant manager Mr. Tom Wood, the new press is much faster and only needs 1 person to operate it compared with 3 to 4 on a conventional machine.
Presses steel into mostly cylinders, conical shapes. It can be converted into a brake press to press right angles or any corner pressing, and we can also roll rails, universal beams, any sort of type of rolled sections through the machine.
How important is this sale to Saudi Arabia?
Well, it's very important to us, especially with the local economy how it is. It was a good sale to get. It's helped us keep employment in the workshop. And also it's good to achieve export markets overseas. Maybe we can achieve more because we have sold one that far away from the Australasian area.
Cuba creates a great deal of interest in left-wing politics around the world because many see it as a highly successful example of the communist state. At last night's function at Trades Hall, the 11 Newcastle people just returned from Cuba stressed that apparent success. The Cubans call such overseas visitors brigadistas because they form brigades and labour in the fields. In return, the government of Fidel Castro subsidises their tour. Mrs. Judy Morley is a nurse who was very impressed by the standards of healthcare and education on the once poverty-stricken island.
What Cuba was like.
In 25 years,
And
she says,
what did
the
you find out
Cubans
about
have
Cuba?
made
What is it
tremendous
like?
Progress.
Well, I found a nation of very proud, dependent people who are very proud of their independence.
although they've had great problems with the American trade boycott and diplomatic boycott for the last 25 years, they've made enormous strides because before the revolution they were illiterate, mostly starving, uneducated, with very little health care, and which they really have now.
That's fine.
Meanwhile, Hunter Medical Association President Dr Ian Walker says that following the breakdown of talks in Canberra and the government's stand, an escalation of the dispute is almost certain, and specialists in the Hunter region will continue their fight.
The medical profession will continue to plead with the government to see sense and discuss in a rational and meaningful way. And until that takes place, we can only see further escalation of dispute, and it may well travel interstate. My expectations are that Victoria will be following the New South Wales path very soon.
And what's the next step for the Hunter Medical Association?
The Hunter Medical Association has some proposals which it intends to put to its executive in Sydney. We have made these proposals in the past. We think they are even more relevant now than they were before. And we will be pressing for a step-by-step de-escalation of the dispute rather than trying to solve it all in one go. We think that there are some concessions that can be made by both sides, if goodwill is to be achieved, that will help to resolve some features of the dispute. We do not think it is practical at the present time to expect the dispute to be resolved completely in one go. We think there should be a step-by-step de-escalation of the dispute. This may not meet with the total approval of all my members, but I think in the practical terms this is the only way that we can see a successful resolution of this dispute.
2 weekends ago, Single Beach was the venue for the Newcastle Range Junior Surf Bike Saving Championship. This weekend it's the big one, the best juniors in the state.
Earlier this season,
Newcastle Junior Association Max Everall predicts a solid showing from the local branch junior contingent.
John, I think they're going to perform very well. We came second to Sydney branch at the inter-branch titles at Maria earlier this season, and I feel there will be a number of great individual performances as well as some good team performances, including, I feel, a terrific performance by the Merewether March Past team, who were 4th in last year's state titles at Wollongong and who have been performing tremendously so far this season.
I know as far as you're concerned, and rightly so, you like to think of it as a unit going into the state championships, but talking about individuals, we have some outstanding ones.
We do. We have Guy Andrews from the Fingal Beach Club, who has performed well in the senior Ironman events, and we have Ryan Hoffman from Merewether, who is the Australian 12-year-old beach sprint champion. I think we still have a lot of good junior performers who haven't yet been exposed to general competition, who will show out over these state titles at the weekend.
And really this weekend at Fingal Beach should be a spectacle. We're going to have clubs and performers from all over the state.
That's right, we will have competitors from 90 clubs throughout the state, extending from Kingscliff in the north to Marimba in the south.
Seatbelts do save lives. Since the introduction of the compulsory wearing of seatbelts, the Traffic Authority estimates that some 200 lives a year have been saved. The Traffic Authority
well, we've conducted surveys over the day to see the difference between what can occur to you if you've got your seatbelt on and if you haven't. Very serious accident here. The driver had his seatbelt on, he was able to walk away. The other vehicle, the driver was unrestrained, and from the impact on the windscreen and the driver's hair on the windscreen, you can see that he suffered very extensive head
Kevin
injuries.
Brady from the Traffic Authority says it's these children who are all too often forgotten.
The risk of taking the child out of the belt and travelling unrestrained is just horrific. Little people pay far too big a price in the crash situation. You see, where the problem comes in, that is usually in the crash, the child suffers head injuries. Now, even more horrifying than the head injuries is that most of these children have a permanent disability, either a mental disability or a physical disability after the crash, and that's just too high a price to pay.
These athletes take on hero status, yet they all started here, in the Junior Surf Lifesaving Association, where they learnt their basic skills. Fingal Beach was filled to capacity with competitors and spectators for today's heats in the state championships. According to one of the event's many organisers, people have won. This is today's person.
These are the type of conditions that we've got out here today, which is what Junior Surf Lifesaving is all about. And it gives an opportunity for the children to have surf awareness and demonstrate skills and not make them scared of the surf. It's an opportunity for them to display those skills here today, and I think it's going to be a wonderful event.
There is a large crowd here, you must be pleased.
Yes, looking around even at this early stage, there's something like about 6,000 people on the beach, and that includes the competitors, so it's really excellent roll up to these state championships.
The beach sprints for all age groups were contested today, as well as heats for the board riding, relay and rescue events. They're called Iron Person events. The girls mixing it with the boys for the time. A competitor to watch is Fingal Bay's Ryan
Bingle's won! In the past few years, the state championships have been plagued with bad weather, so the success of this weekend's championships will depend on tomorrow, when local competitors are expected to feature in the final events.
This is the final of the scorer William Castrol, solo, King of the 100, and there's one down. Had a dreadful day at the gate, has Stephen Davies. He's down at the gate, Bill in second place, followed by Chris Watson in third, going out of the Essence for the last time, and up in the pit corner. It's been a very, very convincing win. The opening round of the 1985 King of the Hunter Senior Solo Series goes to Michael Stormont from Wagga. Second place, Michael Phil, Foreign City.
Grant Bond of the Raymond Terrace Club had a lucky win in NIB Sidecar Series after teammate Jeff Lawrence lost the lead with motor trouble.
He's gone, and Bond's underneath him. He's in trouble. He's going around into the corner. He'll come down to take the checker flag. It's very unfortunate for Lawrence, who had it wrapped up. But it's Bond who takes out the corner sidecar NIB travel.
We are.
Important awards were marked by a dinner at the Walls and Darrasol Club, which was attended by the State Treasurer and
practicing club managers to join.
And members of the club in the Federal Secretary of the Club Managers Association, Mr. Paul Copley, told the audience that an institute has been set up to conduct courses and seminars on club management. New South Wales 96% of that certificate examinations last October, and significantly 12 of them failed. Mr. Burke told the audience that the 80s had been a hard
You've had to
time
make
for
very
life
hard
clubs,
decisions
and
where
most of the
employment
problems
is
were
concerned.
caused by poor management. He presented with certificates 8 club secretary managers from the Hunter who passed the exam. The Club Managers Association believes this training is essential for the health of the industry.
The association and its members, of course, became aware, particularly in recent times, of the difficulties with the recession, random breath testing, instant lottery, the general downturn in the economy, that the job of managing a business, such as a licensed club, was becoming more difficult, more harder every day. We took the view and say to our members that we should hone their professional skills, we should set up a system of continuing education which would allow them to develop their abilities and run their club for the benefit of the community and their members.
local filly and bottomweight, Nature's Splendour, the fancy of many of the local judges, looked in fine fettle today as trainer Paul Perry gave her a look at the home straight. Perry thinks she'll put on a show.
You'd like to see this little lady go bolting down here tomorrow in a winning position.
Yeah, it'd be lovely, Lou. Yeah, it'd be really good. She's been narrowly beaten twice at run third each time and a bit unlucky, and she ran a close fourth at Gosford a fortnight back.
Is she good enough to win tomorrow?
I think she is. Well, I think Osaka will be hard to beat, and he only beat her home a neck at Gosford, and she was finishing over the top of them, you know, and I think the 1200 here at Newcastle on the bigger track will be much more to her liking.
What other horses are you worried, shall I put it that way?
Oh, I think Wonga Prince and Osaka.
They're the two to worry about?
I think so, yeah.
There's a couple of unknowns, the one coming from Brisbane, I believe, you're not going to know too much about either.
No, well, that's it, but they say her two wins have been very good there, so...
Next step, the slipper, I suppose?
Yeah, if she was lucky enough to go all right tomorrow, I think it'd be a nice race for her, yeah.